Hello, my name is Mark Kosek and I will be reviewing the book Oversold and Underused Computers in the Classroom, written by Larry Cuban. The book was copyrighted in 2001 by Connors Business Information Inc. and was most recently published by the Harvard University Press in 2003. Here's some background information on Larry Cuban. He is a professor emeritus of education at Stanford University. He was trained as a historian. He holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Pittsburgh he received in 1955, a Master's of Arts from Cleveland Case Western Reserve University he received in 1958, and a PhD in education from Stanford that he received in 1974. He's worked for 14 years in inner city high schools in Cleveland and Washington, D.C., and was the superintendent of Virginia Arlington School District from 1974 to 1981. After his stint as a superintendent, he returned to Stanford as a professor in 1981. It is clear from his bio here that he's not just another academician locked in his ivory tower, that as the kids would say, he has street cred and has the authority to speak informatively about this subject. The author is well published with several books and many articles to his name. This is just a few of the different books that he has published. Here's a little information about the date the book was written. The book was written in 2001, about a period of study from 1990 to 2000. Some interesting facts from 2001. In 2001, Windows XP was released, and it was announced that Windows 95 was end of life and would no longer be supported. It was the year that the Apple released the iTunes and the iPod. It's the 30th anniversary of the microprocessor, and from the time that it was invented to 2001, the speed had increased from 0.108 megahertz to 2 gigahertz, which represents an 18,500 times increase. Wikipedia came online, and another interesting fact is that the iPhone wouldn't be released for another 6 years. Okay, so the summary of the book. The introduction talks about the history of school reform and the varied forces that brought them about. It speaks about the push for technology in the 80s and the billions of dollars that were spent on wiring, equipment, and other infrastructure since then. Chapter 1 provides a detailed history of education in California and provides the rationale for why the study was performed there. I guess if technology doesn't work in the most technological place in the world, then it probably won't work anywhere else. Chapters 2 through 4 detail the study that was made in the pre-K, kindergarten, high school, and at the university level. It highlights the successes of a few teachers, particularly Miss Rodriguez, a pre-K teacher at Benjamin Co-op Preschool, and Mr. Hunter, a kindergarten teacher at George Elementary School. In the final chapter, he supports his assertion that the computers have been oversold and underused, that computers had no impact on educational outcomes during the period of the study. So some analysis of the book. At its core, this book is a cautionary tale of school reform and the forces that promote it. Over the years, there have been many types of school reform. Some of them have been good intentioned, while others have been motivated by greed, power, or politics. In the book, the author states that the original intent of public school was to build citizens, promote equality, cultivate the moral and social development of individual students, and bind diverse groups into one nation. But that this original intent had been perverted over the years to cater to an economic agenda dictated by big money to create qualified workers for industry. A current example of this is the push to have all students learn coding, when coding only accounts for only 3% of jobs. But because Apple says that every child must learn to code to be employable, the education reformers are jumping onto the bandwagon. And what's interesting about this is information that's from Larry Cuban's current wordsmith page. So computers are not a panacea for what ails education. Promoters have promised the sun, the stars, and the moon. You'll be preparing students for the future. Test scores will improve. But that isn't what has happened. The author's study shows that all of the money spent on computers, for all of the money that's been spent on computers, there has been no improvement in test scores or student outcomes. Billions of dollars have been spent on infrastructure, wiring, and computers for the classroom, and the suppliers have been the ones who have truly benefited from this. The study showed that computers had no impact on test scores or student outcomes. But why haven't computers had the desired effect? I think part of this is that they are a very new technology, and they're being affected by the technology adoption life cycle, where you have innovators who are at the bleeding edge of technology, who pick up the technology and can see its promise and run with it. These are people that succeed even if there is a lack of adequate professional development. In his book, the author identified several maverick computer using teachers that saw the benefit of computers and worked to incorporate them into their curriculum. And I have a quote here. They welcomed computers with open arms, took courses on their own, incessantly asked questions of expert, and acquired the earliest computers available at their school or for home use. As I said, these mavericks were the innovators on the technology adoption life cycle, and that is the reason that computers in their classroom had a beneficial impact on their students. These were individuals that lived on the bleeding edge of technology, and they succeeded not because of support and resources from the school district, but because of their own merit. The reality is that technology adoption is a slow process that starts with innovators like these mavericks, and then takes time for widespread adoption. Times have changed since this study, and there are now ample opportunities for educators to receive professional development related to technology, and there are more teachers that are using technology in their classrooms. One of the things that the author saw was that computers were being used only for basic tasks and are merely replacing pen and paper or typewriters. He pointed out that even at the college level, computers were not being used to their full potential. University professors would use the computer to create their lessons, but would give a traditional direct instruction lecture. And students just use the computers as glorified typewriters. And while things have gotten better, we still face these same dilemmas today. Educators who are supposed to be teaching 21st century skills don't have websites and don't bother to incorporate technology into their classes. Students who appear to be tech savvy because they have smartphones and use social media don't even know how to map a drive or create a folder on a computer. There have been some benefits since this study with computers in education. Computers have allowed for distance learning, online collaboration, file sharing, and many things that have benefited education. But computers and technology still haven't nearly reached their full potential in the classroom. One of the author's biggest fears is that computers will merely replace notebooks and will have no impact on the way that we teach our children. As stated before, the author tells a cautionary tale of school reform and how the best intentions can have unexpected consequences. Everyone wants to believe in the promise of technology and its ability to transform lives. But this study showed that the reality didn't even come close to the promise. The author had many theories why computers fell short of their promise during this period. Having spent 30 years in high tech, I know that the biggest reason is the technology adoption life cycle. We won't see how computers and technology truly benefits education until their use becomes second nature. I, like the author, have concerns about computers in the classroom and how and if they will truly change education. We still have educators who are supposed to be teaching 21st century skills that don't have websites or use technology in their classrooms. More and more we place our faith on science rather than on each other. The author asks us to consider how technology can help to promote the original intent of public or common school, to build citizens, promote equality, cultivate the moral and social development of individual students, and bind diverse groups into one nation. This is something that I believe in as well. Thank you for listening to my presentation.